The civil servant who runs Birmingham City Council is warning of catastrophic consequences as a result of years of funding cuts. Chief Executive Mark Rogers says social care in the city is facing disaster if the government doesn't step in. His comments were made ahead of a debate in Parliament this afternoon about the city's funding, called by Birmingham MP Steve McCabe.
Birmingham, the second city in the country, home to more than 1 million people, is also the second hardest hit in terms of government cuts in the whole of the country. How is that fair?
So what is the scale of the problem facing Birmingham? Well, Elizabeth Glinker here has been taking a closer look.
Well, Nick, it's a bit like Groundhog Day, isn't it? Dire warnings of the impact of cuts. But perhaps this is a little bit different because Mark Rogers is non-political. He's the man who oversees the day-to-day running of the council. So let's start with the figures. Birmingham is the biggest local authority in Europe with a budget of around £3 billion. Since 2010, it's stripped £650 million from its budget, with another £113 million to be taken out next year. In 2010, the council employed around 21,000 people. That's now 12.5 and expected to drop further to 8,000 by 2020. Now, if you live in Birmingham, you may feel that not much has changed. The bins are still collected, the parks are still open, and that may be because, as Mark Rogers says in The Guardian today, 80% of the council's budget is spent on about 20% of its people. Frankly, the people who are struggling the most. Children's centres were designed to help the most deprived. There are now half as many as there were in 2010. Birmingham's youth service has all but disappeared. There are just 2 youth clubs left in the whole of the city. Regarding adult social care, that's the people who go in and help elderly people wash and dress. He says it's now harder to get and staff have less time. And as homeless programmes have been cut, rough sleeping has quadrupled, something that charities are concerned about.
What you will see if these cuts come into play is more people sleeping rough. It's as simple as that. You will see the problem get a lot worse. And the truth is, you know, as has been spotted by a lot of people over the last 6-12 months, there are more people sleeping on the streets at this point in time. If these cuts come through, you will see more of that.
So are the MPs right? Is Birmingham being victimised? This was the government's response in Parliament this evening.
There are plenty of other local authorities, many of them with much less funding per dwelling, which are not reducing services in the way that has been described today. And key to that is having a budget which is viable and realistic.
And of course, Birmingham isn't the only authority which has been asked to make these savings. They all have. Wolverhampton points out its spending has been cut by half since 2010. It faces similar levels of deprivation. And even in the Shire counties, which we generally think of as more prosperous, they're dealing with big changes. Staffordshire County Council, announcing its budget today, says it needs to save £2 million every month for the next 5 years, and has also cut nearly half its budget over the last 6 years. The government has announced it plans to let authorities increase council tax, but many are saying that'll be just a drop in the ocean. Nick.
Elizabeth, thank you. And in North